So I want you to just imagine something for a second. Put yourself in the shoes of someone who has, just spent the last 4 years pouring absolutely everything they have into preparing for their career.
Right, the late night study sessions, all of it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You've taken the internships, you've passed the grueling exams, and you are finally standing at the bottom of the corporate career ladder,
Yeah.
ready to just step onto that very first rung.
You're ready to climb.
Yeah. But you lift your foot, you step down,
Mm-hmm.
and you nearly fall flat on your face. Because when you look down, you realize that first rung has completely vanished into thin air.
It's just gone.
It's totally gone. There's literally nothing there to support your weight. And where do you step next?
I mean, that creates a profound sense of vertigo. You're suddenly standing at the edge of this massive gap that literally nobody prepared you for. And I think the terrifying part is that the gap is getting wider by the minute.
It really is. So welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today is to explore that exact feeling and really the massive structural shift in the job market that's causing it. We're looking at what's being called the entry-level crisis.
Yeah, and we should clarify right up front, this isn't just a problem for recent college grads.
No, not at all.
Like, if you are an experienced professional managing a team, or, an educator trying to design a syllabus, or even just a parent watching your kid navigate this, the way we train, integrate, and actually value new talent is being fundamentally rewritten right now.
Absolutely. And we're pulling from some incredibly sharp source material today to map this all out. We're looking at the presentation notes and the research from Scott Wise.
Yeah, he's a former Big Four consultant, a tech entrepreneur, and he authored the book AI for Leaders, Amplify Your Impact.
Right, and you can find his frameworks over at scottwise.ai, where it really focuses on helping executives move their organizations from being just AI curious to genuinely AI capable.
Which is a huge leap.
It's a massive leap. So, okay, let's unpack the core of this crisis, because we all see the headlines about AI changing the workplace, right? That part is obvious.
Yeah, everyone knows the robots are coming.
Exactly. But to understand the actual mechanics of how it's changing the workplace, we have to look at where the impact is hitting hardest, which is the very beginning of the career journey. Our sources highlight this staggering statistic. Since 2023. Entry-level job postings in the U.S. have dropped by 38 to 40%.
Nearly 40% in just a couple of years.
It's wild.
The sheer volume of entry points into the professional world is just evaporating. And to understand the mechanism behind that drop, you kind of have to look at how white-collar industries have historically treated early careers. We used to rely super heavily on this apprenticeship phase.
Oh, right. The phase where you basically just do all the grunt work.
Yeah, exactly.
The drafting, the endless synthesizing of meeting notes, pulling baseline data into those massive, terrible spreadsheets. Nobody loved doing it, but, I mean, it served a purpose.
It served a massive purpose. Like, you were executing highly routine tasks, yes, but what you were really doing was building professional pattern recognition.
Building judgment.
Right. So by reading 100 past legal contracts to find one specific clause, a junior lawyer learns what a normal contract actually looks like. Or by manually cleaning up financial data, a junior analyst learns how the business functions on a granular level. You were learning professional judgment through repetition.
Right. But according to the World Economic Forum, 50 to 60% of those typical junior-level tasks can now be executed by AI.
Which is huge.
It's completely changing the game. The machine is absorbing the foundational work, which means the early career ladder is compressing. It's like trying to teach someone to swim by throwing them directly into the deep end of the pool, because we literally paved over the shallow end just to save some time.
That analogy hits the nail right on the head, the shallow end where you could, safely make mistakes and learn the ropes it's paved over.
I do need to push back on this a bit, though. Is this first rung genuinely vanishing entirely, or are we just, shifting what we call entry level? Surely, even with AI, companies still need someone at the bottom to prep the data before the AI can even read it or to wrangle the software. Isn't there still a bottom floor?
You'd really think so, right? But the capabilities of these models have advanced so quickly that they are automating the preparation work, too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they can handle unstructured data, messy spreadsheets, badly formatted PDFs, instantly. Scott Wise's analysis points to a true structural disappearance of task-based training. Employers are fundamentally changing what they're actually buying when they hire a new graduate.
Meaning what, exactly?
Well, they are no longer hiring you to execute basic tasks. They are now hiring for judgment, critical thinking, and adaptability from day one.
Day one judgment. I mean, that feels like an impossible ask for a 22-year-old. You don't get that 2-year buffer to figure out how to make good decisions behind the scenes anymore.
You don't. You're expected to validate the machine's output immediately.
Okay, so if the market is demanding day one judgment and the entry level is vanishing, you'd assume the institutions preparing the next generation universities would be hyper-focused on this. But looking at the sources, there is a massive, almost comical disconnect between academia and the corporate world.
It's wild. Wise calls this the tale of two conversations. You have the campus conversation on one side and the market conversation on the other, and they're basically operating in alternate realities.
The campus conversation seems incredibly defensive, right? It reads like a risk mitigation strategy. Universities are obsessing over plagiarism, trying to build better cheating detection software, and just finding ways to tightly control or restrict how students use AI.
Yeah, they're treating it like a banned substance, or at best, a distraction. But meanwhile, the market conversation is purely offensive. The corporate world is obsessed with productivity, speed, and creating these hybrid roles where humans and machines work in tandem.
The urgency in the data is just wild. 94% of CEOs say they prioritize AI skills for their companies, but only 6% of employees actually feel comfortable using them.
That discrepancy is huge. You have leadership demanding a skill that almost nobody in the trenches feels confident using. And that creates what the research estimates is a $5.5 trillion global AI skills gap.
Trillion. With a T?
Yeah, a $5.5 trillion gap. So if you've unitized that gap, you have universities locked in committee meetings debating if students should be allowed to use AI to write an essay, while the market has already decided that they absolutely must use AI to be hireable.
Think about the psychological toll that takes on a student or even a parent trying to advise their kid. You are caught completely in the crossfire. You sit in a lecture on Tuesday with a professor who will literally fail you for using ChatGPT, and then on Wednesday you go to a job interview with an employer who won't hire you unless you are an expert at prompting that exact same tool.
Scott Wise actually humanizes this tension beautifully. He points out that for him, this isn't just, abstract consulting theory. He has a son, Maddox, who is currently a junior studying cybersecurity at the University of Tulsa.
Oh, wow. So he's right in the thick of it.
Exactly. Wise notes that Maddox has just 15 months until he launches into a market that is fundamentally disrupted. He's watching this unfold as a father, seeing the workforce mutate much faster than a traditional 4-year curriculum can adapt.
That timeline makes the anxiety so real. 15 months is nothing. So if task execution is dead and the traditional university training ground is lagging, how do people actually survive this shift? According to the sources, it requires a complete rewiring of how we view our relationship with AI.
Right, we have to stop viewing AI as a task finisher and start viewing it as an idea extender.
I love that framing, idea extender.
It changes everything. Wise brings in the Pareto principle to frame the classic 80-20 rule, which states that 20% of your work creates 80% of your actual impact or value.
And right now, everyone is totally focused on the 80%. People are using AI to automate the repetitive, routine tasks, writing the boilerplate emails, summarizing the long meetings, which is fine. I mean, it saves you an hour or two a day.
Yeah, but saving time doesn't make you uniquely valuable to your employer. It just makes you slightly more efficient at the baseline. The real competitive advantage, like the way you actually survive the entry-level crisis, comes when you use AI to amplify the 20%.
The high-value stuff.
Exactly. The strategic thinking, the creative insights, the complex relational activities. There's this brilliant quote from Wise's notes. Limited value comes from doing things faster. Limitless value comes from discovering things that matter.
Here's where it gets really interesting. That is a great distinction. It reminds me of the invention of the calculator, right? When the calculator became widely available, we didn't just stop teaching math.
Right, obviously not.
We stopped heavily testing basic arithmetic so we could start testing complex problem solving and calculus. We outsourced the raw computation so we could elevate human interpretation.
And that shift to interpretation aligns perfectly with the data Wise shares from the Boston Consulting Group. BCG looked at what actually makes an AI investment successful in a corporate environment, and the breakdown is incredibly counterintuitive.
Yeah, lay this out because it surprised me.
They found that successful AI integration is only 10% about the AI technologies and 20% about the data infrastructure.
I am really struggling with that 10% stat, to be honest. If the entire initiative is to roll out a massive AI platform, how can the actual technology only be 10% of the success equation? What on earth is the other 90% doing?
I know it sounds absurd until you look at implementation. You can buy the best enterprise AI software in the world tomorrow. That's the 10%. The 20% is making sure your company's data isn't a messy, siloed disaster so that AI can actually read it. But the remaining 70%, the vast majority of the effort, is people and process.
Okay, break down the 70% for me. What does that actually look like on the ground?
It means redesigning the workflow entirely. It means training employees to ask different questions. It means changing how a team communicates or how a manager evaluates performance when output takes seconds instead of days.
So the tech is the easy part.
Exactly. The tech is easy to buy. Changing human behavior to effectively use the tech is incredibly difficult.
Which means the value of the employee is moving away from being a technologist to being a domain expert.
Precisely. Global AI intelligence is now available to anyone with a smartphone. Having access to a large language model doesn't give you a competitive edge anymore. Value is only created when you combine that globally available generic AI with your specific, deep personal expertise and institutional knowledge.
Right, you have to know the context of your specific business. Which brings us to a really critical part of this deep dive, the anatomy of an AI-ready graduate. If we need to be domain experts who amplify our thinking, how do we actually build this kind of professional when the old training ground is gone?
This raises an important question, for sure. Wise describes the ideal modern professional as being T-shaped.
Okay, T-shaped can sound a bit like standard corporate bingo. Let's make this concrete for the listener. Give me a hypothetical example of what a T-shaped employee looks like in practice.
Fair enough. Let's invent Sarah, a junior marketing analyst. Imagine the letter T. The vertical bar represents her deep technical AI fluency. For Sarah, this means she knows advanced prompt engineering.
So she's not just typing, write a marketing email into a chat box.
Right. She knows how to build a complex prompt that feeds the AI past campaign data, sets brand voice constraints, and, asks it to analyze 1,000 customer reviews.
Okay, so the vertical bar is the hard technical interaction with the machine.
Yes. And it also includes responsible AI verification, knowing how to spot when the machine is hallucinating data or just making up a statistic. But crucially, that vertical bar is totally useless without the horizontal bar across the top.
The broad, durable human skills.
Exactly. For Sarah, the horizontal bar is her emotional intelligence and her contextual reasoning. She looks at the AI's generated marketing email and realizes, this is technically flawless, but given the PR crisis our company had last week, this tone is going to sound completely insensitive to our core demographic.
Ah, because the AI couldn't know the cultural context of that specific real-time moment. Sarah applies human judgment.
Right, and the market is absolutely throwing money at people who have both of those bars. The sources note there is a 56% wage premium for AI-skilled roles right now.
56%, that's massive.
And furthermore, people who are properly trained in these tools are 2.7 times more proficient than users who just teach themselves. You can't just wing this by playing around on ChatGPT on the weekends.
But this dynamic brings up an essential philosophical and practical issue, which is really at the heart of Wise's presentation. What happens to human accountability when machines are doing so much of the heavy lifting?
This is key. He states unequivocally, accountability is never artificial.
I love that phrase. Accountability is never artificial. Let's dig into how that actually works.
Well, AI is phenomenal at generating volume without validation. It can give you 20 pages of interpretations, competitive analyses, and strategic ideas in 3 seconds. But it doesn't possess a moral compass.
Right.
It doesn't know what is actually true, what is ethical, or what is uniquely relevant to a delicate client relationship. That is why humans must apply what Wise calls the leadership filter.
The leadership filter. What exactly is passing through this filter?
3 core criteria: accuracy, alignment, and authenticity.
Okay, so is the data true?
Yes. And does it align with our company's actual goals? And does it sound authentic to who we are? AI can inform you, and it can certainly inspire you, but it cannot ensure integrity.
The human owns the outcome, not the algorithm.
Exactly. If an AI generates a flawed financial report and you present it to the board, you can't blame the software. You get fired, not the AI.
It's so true. I want you, the listener, to just pause and think about your own daily routine for a second. What are the specific moments in your day that require a heavy dose of, like, healthy skepticism? Think about that moment where you read a project proposal and your gut immediately says, wait, something is off here. The client's weird quirks, or you remember a failed project from 3 years ago that the AI has no record of.
Because a machine simply cannot replicate that lived, messy human context.
Exactly. Which perfectly sets up the philosophical apex of Wise's presentation. He says, if AI scales cognition, we must scale humanity.
That is such a fascinating way to look at it. If AI makes logic cheap, we have to invest in what makes us human.
Right. Think about it purely in terms of market economics. When logical processing, basic coding, and pattern recognition become abundant and virtually free because of AI, what becomes scarce?
Ethical reasoning becomes scarce.
Yes.
Nuanced real-world judgment becomes scarce. The ability to sit in a room and build interpersonal trust with a nervous client becomes incredibly scarce. And in any market, scarcity is what creates value.
So what does this all mean? We have this pressing need for T-shaped graduates who can apply the leadership filter. But earlier, we talked about how universities are stuck in a defensive posture. University curriculums are notoriously slow. I mean, it takes years just to approve a new textbook, let alone an entirely new pedagogical model. Are there any institutions actually stepping up to rebuild this missing first rung of the ladder?
Fortunately, the answer is yes. WISE highlights several institutions that have realized they need to move past the defensive cheating detection phase. They are actively tearing down the walls between the academic bubble and the market reality.
Moving the focus of education from computation to interpretation.
And from mere knowledge to wisdom, let's look at the concrete examples from the sources, because they aren't just doing one single thing. They are trying completely different structural models.
Right. Take the University of Florida, for example.
Yeah, they adopted what they call the pervasive model. Rather than taking AI and locking it away in the computer science department just for the engineers, they hired 100 AI-focused faculty members and spread them across all 16 of their colleges.
Which is brilliant because it directly addresses the domain expert concept we talked about.
Totally. Under the pervasive model, an agriculture student isn't learning how to build a large language model from scratch. They're learning how to use AI to predict crop yields based on soil data. An art history student is learning how AI analyzes brushstrokes to detect forgeries. The AI is treated as a lens through which they view their specific discipline.
Then you have MIT, which is using the bilingual model. They're trying to create computing bilinguals.
Meaning what, practically?
The goal is for students to graduate completely fluent in both their primary disciplines, say biology or mechanical engineering, and the language of computing, fusing those two perspectives together seamlessly.
Oh, that's smart. I also find the approach at American University's Kogod School of Business fascinating. They went with the integration model, and they overhauled their curriculum in 6 months.
6 months in academia is basically light speed. How did they pull that off, and what does it actually mean for the students?
They essentially decided that AI is no longer a niche elective you take in your senior year. They mandated AI proficiency across the entire business school, weaving it into existing courses. Think about how a business school treats Microsoft Excel.
Oh, you don't just take an Excel class.
Right. You are expected to use Excel to complete your finance case studies and your accounting homework. Kogod made AI foundational infrastructure in the exact same way.
And Arizona State University took yet another route with the partner model. They partnered directly with OpenAI to provide ChatGPT Edu to all of their students and faculty.
Yeah, they aren't trying to build an in-house alternative. They are giving everyone access to the enterprise-level tools of the market, treating it as essential campus infrastructure like Wi-Fi or library access.
So what all these successful university models share is a mandate for AI plus X. It is inherently interdisciplinary. It's not about learning AI in a vacuum. It's about learning AI as applied to specific human endeavors.
Exactly. And as we bring this deep dive full circle, it all points back to a core tension that Scott Wise lays out. We are basically facing a choice. Is AI going to be a crutch, or is it going to be a catalyst?
The answer depends entirely on how we develop the human beings using the technology. If we just hand people these advanced tools to automate their grunt work so they can clock out early, it's a crutch.
Definitely.
We will lose the apprenticeship phase, and we will end up with a generation of professionals who lack foundational judgment. But if we intentionally train them, if we teach them to apply that leadership filter, to amplify their strategic thinking, and to lean in to their scarce human skills, it becomes a massive catalyst.
The early career ladder is definitely compressing, and the cognitive bar to enter the workforce is rising significantly, but this isn't a threat to be feared.
No, not at all.
It is a profound call to elevate human capability. It's an opportunity to strip away the robotic tasks we use to force humans to do and lean into the things that make us uniquely human.
We don't exist to compete with machines on computation. We exist to command them with wisdom.
That's the perfect way to summarize it.
So if you are looking to navigate this transition within your own organization, or if you want to understand how to build these skills yourself, I highly recommend checking out more of Scott Wise's frameworks at scottwise.ai and looking for his book, AI for Leaders. Amplify Your Impact. It's a fantastic resource for moving from AI curious to AI capable.
And before we sign off, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought. We mentioned earlier that AI makes answers incredibly cheap and abundant. Wise points out a fascinating reality of this new era. If the right answers are now a commodity, then the right questions become the currency.
I love that. So here is our challenge to you. Open up your calendar for tomorrow. Look at the meetings you have scheduled, the projects you are working on, the clients you are talking to. If you didn't have to spend a single second finding the answers, if the AI could pull all the data, synthesize the reports, and summarize the context for you instantly, what is the most valuable, deeply human question you could ask your team or your clients tomorrow?
What is the question that only you, with your specific lived experience and empathy, could ask?
Think about that. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.